Hey there, and welcome back to the PA is In, the show that helps you to create a fulfilling and sustainable career as a PA. I'm your host, Tracy Bingaman, here to guide you through all the ups and downs of life and medicine. And today we're talking about something that many of us have experienced at some point: being stuck in a rut. Whether it's in your professional life or your personal life, feeling stuck can be frustrating and overwhelming. But never fear, because today we're going to dive into 4 powerful ways to help you break free from that rut and get back on track. Or if a new track is what you need, decide on and take the first steps towards that new track. So if you're ready to shake things up, get unstuck ASAP, and reignite your passion, stay tuned. Okay, let's talk about ruts. We've all been there, right? That feeling of going through the motions, like you're just existing, but not really living or thriving. For me, and I think this is going to ruffle some feathers, that rut tends to happen in the summer. Yes, I live somewhere where the weather is great in the summer and my kids are off of school, but also that lends itself to less structure and less regularity in our schedule. And I am someone that thrives when I have a specific calendar, a specific plan. And oftentimes I feel like that keeps me accountable to not procrastinating and to getting things done and to staying on top of all of these tasks that I need to do in order to create this podcast and sit down and record for you. So, coming out of the summer, part of this podcast is that I often teach what I need to learn. And I feel like I'm in a little bit of a post summer rut as we're leading into back to school, as we're coming up on fall, that I need to get out of my rut. I need to get out of feeling stuck and like I'm not making any progress professionally or personally. Whether it's from burnout at your job, feeling unmotivated in your personal life, or even struggling with achieving your goals, it's important to recognize that it is completely normal to feel a little stuck, like you're not making quite as much traction as you want to be. But this feeling and this condition does not have to be permanent. So let's talk about 4 ways that you can pull yourself out of a rut and start feeling excited about your life and your work again. The first is to set small, achievable goals. If you're in a rut, the idea of tackling some big project or taking on massive change can feel overwhelming, almost to the point of paralysis. It can lead you to further procrastinate or spin your wheels or not make actual progress towards that big goal. So, what you're going to do here is break it down. What's one small thing that you can accomplish today? Maybe it's sending that one email you've been avoiding, paying that one bill that's been sitting on your counter, following up, finally getting caught up in your in basket of results, charting some of that backlog of those charts that you have from visits of patients that you've seen earlier in the week, or even taking a few minutes to tidy up your workspace. I can remember when I was supremely burned out. At one point, I looked down and in my lab coat pocket, I had dozens and dozens of pages, probably about a month's worth of hospital censuses that had just accumulated in there. So each day I would print out the list of our urology patients that needed to be seen. And it wasn't just my hospital, it was all the hospitals in the network. I would fold it in half in this very specific way so that I could write, make notes about the patient and write down their lab work and their imaging and their disposition and make a little checkbox if I had done their note and star them if I wanted to review their case with the attending. But those things I use daily. And other than the day or two before that, I had no reason to have last month's patient census in my pocket. But I was a little bit stuck in a rut where I didn't have a habit of disposing of those, especially in the place where you put patient protected information. It's not something I would throw out at home, right? So I'm just carrying around this literal extra burden of these papers in my pocket. So I remember like taking them all out, pulling out maybe today's and yesterday's, and then discarding the rest at an appropriate place for protected health information. But that felt like, oh, like I feel lighter that I've tidied up my workspace, which at that point was my lab coat because I was rounding all over the place and I didn't have a specific desk dedicated to me inside of the hospital. But that was one small thing that you can do, or that's one small thing that you can do to make you feel like you actually did something. When you're stuck in a rut and overwhelmed, sometimes those small tasks like getting rid of the old census list or cleaning out your lab coat pockets or getting rid of some clutter at your workspace can make a big difference in how you feel. Heck, just before we logged on, one of the lights in my office where I record my podcast had gone out. It had been out for a little while and I haven't recorded on video for some time. So before I sat down to record this, I had to change that light bulb. Now that was a 3-minute task. But I felt so accomplished, partly because I had been procrastinating that task for so long, but partly because it was just one thing that I did and I got done. These small wins can add up. And before you know it, you've built a little head of momentum. The thing about momentum is once you get going, you can go further and faster and put other things on your to-do list and start to accomplish other things. Another approach you can take when you want to just get small things done and break down those bigger goals into smaller pieces is to choose 3 things you're planning to accomplish each day. These 3 things can give you something to check off your list. I cannot be the only one who lives to cross things off of their list. I am not above writing down a task that I have already completed because I love the feeling of checking those things off or crossing things off the list. Progress, no matter how small, can reignite your drive and give you that sense of accomplishment that's going to fuel you to the next step, and that you're going to start moving forward and making progress. Break down large tasks or goals into smaller, manageable steps. When you focus on accomplishing one small task at a time, you don't feel quite so stuck or overwhelmed. If you're thinking about the entire month or the entire week or even the entire day of all of the patients, all of the tasks, all of the in-basket items, it can seem incredibly daunting. Breaking that down into the first visit and even further into completing the visit and getting the charting done before moving on to your second visit can help you to sort of see that progress that you're making as you're making it. The bottom line is that one small goal leads to this little shot in the arm and can help you both get traction and also feel better about the traction that you are making. Next up is changing your routine. Feeling like you're stuck in a rut often happens because we're stuck in a monotonous or repetitive cycle. It's easy to fall into a rhythm that doesn't challenge or inspire us. We are creatures of habit, and sometimes those habits are not serving us. You might feel like you meet your familial obligations, you go to work, you see your patients, you do your work, you get your notes done, you rush home, you have dinner, you do the dishes, you do the laundry, you rinse and repeat. So if you have been feeling stuck, consider shaking things up. My mentor, Amy Porterfield, is constantly challenging her students to DSD or do something different. This doesn't have to be something drastic. It doesn't have to be a new job or a new specialty or something crazy. Maybe it's changing where you chart for the day, trying a new hobby, or even fine-tuning your morning routine. Some of those small, subtle tweaks in the status quo of your life can breathe life into your otherwise stalled or stagnant routines and habits. Doing something different is about creating small disruptions in your day-to-day life that can help you to shift your mindset and make you feel open to new possibilities. Changing your routine is one of the most effective ways to get unstuck because it disrupts the patterns that have led you to feeling so stagnant and unmotivated. When you're in a rut, your brain and body are often stuck in this autopilot mode. You're doing the same things, those repetitive tasks and behaviors, but you're not really engaged, right? You're not super present. It's not challenging you in the way that it once did because it's become commonplace for you. By altering your routine, you forced your brain to adapt and engage in new ways, which can lead to several benefits. The first is that it stimulates creativity. When you change your routine, when you do something different than the way that you've done it in the past, you introduce new stimuli to your brain. This could be as simple as taking a different route to work, maybe trying a new hobby. Maybe you usually take the stairs or you take the elevator and you take the opposite mode of transport from one place to another. Maybe you usually round from the bottom floor up and you round from the top floor down instead. Maybe you usually do your in basket last thing in the day and you want to get it done first thing in the day so it's not waiting for you at the end of the day. This small change, these fresh inputs help your brain to form new neural connections, which can foster creativity and also just help your brain to be more alert because you're changing something and it has to pay attention a little bit more. The older I get, the more fascinated I become with neuroplasticity and all of these things that we can do that are modifiable risk factors. So, when you try something different, you're making new pathways in your brain, which makes your brain more resilient and it also wakes you up to the things that you're already doing. And the next thing that is helpful when you try something new or do something different is it breaks this cycle of monotony. Ruts often form when you fall into repetitive patterns that are not exciting or challenging. So, changing your routine and doing something different breaks that cycle of monotony and allows you to experience something different. Even small tasks like adjusting the orders of your daily tasks can shake things up enough to provide a renewed sense of purpose and also get you paying attention and keep you on your toes a little bit more. In short, changing your routine helps disrupt the patterns that contribute to being stuck, allowing you to rediscover motivation, creativity, and fulfillment in both your personal and professional life. This next one is a biggie: reconnecting with your why. What is your purpose here? When you feel stuck, it's often because you've lost sight of why you started in the first place. So take some time to reflect. Why did you first become a PA? What is it about your work or your personal goals that used to excite you? Remind yourself of that purpose. And is there something that's happening at work or in your life that you can get excited about right now? Reconnecting with your why can sort of rekindle that passion and remind you of the bigger picture, which can help you to pull back from that day to day grind, from being so focused on the task right in front of you and zooming out a little so that you can see the reason, the path, why you're doing this. And that can help you to feel more motivated by seeing that big picture. Reconnecting with your why is about rediscovering the purpose, passion, and the motivation that initially drove you towards working in medicine or your specific specialty or your specific setting. So if you're like, that sounds great, but how do I go about reconnecting with my why? I'm going to give you a couple of prompts, ask you a couple of questions, and give you some practical steps to help you reconnect with that deeper sense of purpose. The first is to reflect on your journey. Take some time to pause and reflect on your career and your personal journeys. Consider journaling or even just sit down and mull over questions like, why did I choose this specific path in the first place? What were my original goals and dreams? What moments in my career or personal life have brought me the most fulfillment? How have my values and priorities evolved over time? By reflecting on these questions, we can uncover things like your core motivations and things that you may have lost in that day-to-day grind when we're so focused on what's happening next Tuesday, tomorrow, tonight, what we're having for dinner. Sometimes we lose that ability to see where we've come from and what the goals and dreams were along the way. The next thing to consider when you're aiming to reconnect with your why is to revisit your accomplishments. Look back at past successes and achievements that have made you feel specifically proud of yourself. Revisit things like old performance reviews, or if your patients have written you thank you notes, if someone left a really great Google review, or projects that went well. that one moment that your kid said or did something that made you feel so incredibly proud of them. I want you to try and think about those things as it reflects on your career and your accomplishments. I can remember I had this one patient when I was working on general surgery years and years ago, and he was hospitalized for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we would get him better and then he would get sick again, or we would get him home and he would get admitted again. We finally got him well and home and healed from what I think was multiple laparotomies, or maybe a laparotomy and a couple of take back laparoscopies. And we finally get him home. He comes in for his postoperative appointment in the clinic, and he brought my surgeon and I this handmade beaded jewelry that his sister had made. And it came in this box. Honestly, I could show it to you, but it's on the other side of the office. It came in this box that was clearly handmade with this lace, and it was crafted. And he was so genuinely grateful of the care that we had provided him, and that he was finally feeling better, and that he was going to be able to go back to work. And that box is still displayed in my office. And every time I see that box, it makes me smile. And it also helps me to remember the impact that one provider can have on one patient and vice versa. So that patient and his gratitude for the care, but also that relationship that we developed over time, is really impactful. And you in your career, no matter if you're one day or, 10 decades in, you have had an impact on patients. You have had such a positive impact on them. You're helping them to stay healthy, to get healthy, to be better, to get out of the hospital, to get that surgery, to recover from that thing. And it's really powerful to reflect on that impact that you have had on them, and also the impact that they have had on you, because I think that is a two-way street as we're in relationship with these patients. That can remind you of why you started in the first place, why you embarked on this journey, and of the incredible value that you can bring to others. When you're in a rut, it can seem like you're not making a difference at all to anyone. And I think in medicine, it can sort of feel like we're on this hamster wheel of like, I see patients, I do notes. Do they get better? Do they go home? Do they take the advice? Do they make the lifestyle changes? Do they fill the prescription? Do they follow up? And we don't always have control. It's probably a better way to say that is we don't have control over what they do. And it could feel like you're stuck and you're sort of seeing the same type of patient on repeat, or the same thing. And then is anyone getting better? And when you're in a rut, you can get in this negative headspace where you're saying, I'm working so hard. Where am I even going? You feel like the hamster in the wheel. You feel like you're on the treadmill. But if you think about specific instances of patients that you've connected with, of people you've helped to make feel better, those things are incredibly powerful in helping to get you out of that rut, or reminding you that like the work that you're doing is so important. It matters so much, even if it feels like it's getting lost in the sea of one more visit, one more chart, one more day of work, one more call shift, right? And fourth, which is last but certainly not least, talk to someone. Do not be afraid to reach out to a mentor, a coach, a therapist, your own medical team. Sometimes it's really hard to see the way out of a rut that you've been in, especially if you've been in there a little while, on your own. It's hard to change your perspective when you are the one in the trench. So having someone in your corner, whether it's a mentor, a coach, a psychologist, a therapist, or even a trusted colleague or friend, can provide that outside perspective that you need. This person can offer you guidance, they can hold you accountable, and they can help you make a plan to move forward. You do not have to do this alone. Sometimes having that support can make all the difference in getting back on track, or in helping to realize that the track you're on, this rut that you're in, maybe is an indication that it's time to make more significant changes. In fact, I offer one-on-one coaching. We do 3 or 6 month stretches for clinicians who are feeling stuck. During this time, we'll work to identify what specifically has you feeling stuck, and then work towards some forward momentum and a specific strategic plan that can help you to move forward. Maybe that plan is leaving your position or clinical medicine altogether, but that plan could also be you developing coping mechanisms, specific tools, and skills that help you to navigate the current situation that you're in. Sometimes small tweaks and tools can help to make a huge difference in your life. Coaching consists of one 45-minute call a week. Ideal candidates for coaching are clinicians who are burned out, who are overwhelmed or overworked or underpaid or feeling stuck in a rut. If you're questioning what's the next step for your career, where you go next in your organization, or how to feel like you're making a difference within the healthcare system, and to feel like you're getting traction, even though you're on this rinse and repeat and your job is not that exciting per se, coaching is a really great option for all of those instances. In order to start down that road to getting unstuck, head to the link in the show notes. I offer free introductory calls. Book a time that works for you. We have a 30-minute call where we sit down and assess your situation and see if coaching is a good fit for you. Whether it's coaching from me, connecting with a mentor at work, touching base with your primary care or medical team, or discussing your rut with a friend, connection is incredibly powerful. In fact, I have been a little bit gun shy about sharing my rut on the internet with you or even with some of my closest friends and colleagues because and I think part of this is that I have this naturally sunny disposition, and I see myself, and I think other people see me as someone who is positive and competent and can always get things done no matter what. That I hesitate to raise my hand and say, hey, I'm struggling, or this isn't going so well, or I'm having a hard time with this. But in the last 2 days, yesterday on a phone call with my virtual assistant and friend, Sarah Miller, who's coming up on the podcast, she's had one episode in the past and we'll have several in the future. And in just a texting conversation with a friend today, I said to them, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I'm, getting back in the groove, or, something that just shared with them like, hey, it's not been a super feel good, productive, amazing time these last couple of months. And that's okay. And acknowledging that that's a normal part of life and of humanity and of this human condition of ours. So I encourage you to make those connections and get some help, even if it's just like going for a walk or getting some coffee with a friend. You aren't meant to navigate this rut and live this life alone. Community and vulnerability can help you to realize that it's not just you, and that you also have this ability to make adjustments in your life that can help you get unstuck pronto, but that feeling stuck does not mean that you are at the end of the road. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of The PA is In. I know that every time you press play, you have the option of a unbelievable amount of content that exists on the internet. And it's so great that you came here and that you press play on this episode. I hope it served you so well. If you enjoyed this episode and you want more tips on how to create a thriving career as a PA, be sure to subscribe. I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review and a written rating on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend who might need a little TLC or a boost to get out of their own rut, or just some encouragement that you see them. Until next time, keep taking care of yourself, keep setting those goals, tiny ones that you can achieve and feel great about. And remember, rut or not, you are capable of incredible things. That's all for today. This PA is out.